Zeppelin to you now. On bass guitar, John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones. On drums, John Bonham. Lead guitar, Jimmy Page. And myself, Robert Plant.
Born out of the wreckage of the Yardbirds in the summer of 1968, Led Zeppelin combined the talents of two top London studio pros, guitarist Jimmy Page and bassist John Paul Jones, and two provincial unknowns, Birmingham singer Robert Plant and his partner, drummer John Bonzo Bonham. Their 1969 debut album, a top 10 smash slammed out in just 36 hours, defined the very 60s term heavy, although Zeppelin itself turned out to be much more than that.
Since I was 19 and I met Jimmy and Led Zeppelin came out of the Yardbirds, the last thing that we relied on was formula.
We were everything, really. We touched so many different areas of just the normal sort of the blues and rock and the acoustic, but then we also went into other areas as well.
Because we all had totally diverse musical tastes. And to actually find something that either we knew or that we could get through reasonable enough to, to have some sort of performance adrenaline. And we chose a Yardbirds song, which I didn't know, but Jim said it was easy, and it was. And we played that, and yes, there was, the sort of, something's definitely happening here.
Page and Plant were classic British frontmen, whip-thin, wild but sensitive, and of course sexy. But the pounding heart of the group, as even they realized, was Bonham.
The amazing thing about John Bonham, that obviously I wasn't aware of at that time, nobody was aware of it, was the fact of how inventive he was and just how forward-thinking he was with the drums, apart from the fact that he made drums sound like drums as well. And he played them, he's the loudest drummer that I've ever played with, and the most incredible thing was that he just used his wrists. It wasn't all this arm smashing, it was just his wrists. And that really is quite something. That's the reason why we started to get big amplifiers, so we could hear ourselves.
Zeppelin's first European tour took them to a Danish TV studio, where they encountered a woman who nearly stopped their ascent dead in its tracks.
And it was Baroness von Zeppelin. And she was so overjoyed that we'd used the family name and all the rest of it, it's pleasantries. And they took her out into the studio to show her around, you see, and suddenly she saw the album cover, first album cover, which says the Zeppelin crashing in her face. There's this almighty shrieking, and she came back in and threatening to have the lawyers stop the show. And all of this was going on right to the point of transmission. So, it reflects in that show, I can tell you. Start picking up the violin bow and playing guitar with the violin bow. They'd never seen anything like that before, let alone heard what was.
Led Zeppelin topped the U.S. charts with their second album, an LP written and recorded on the road, using 8-track studio equipment that today would seem almost primitive.
A lot of the time I was singing on the same track that held the lead guitar solo. So I had to make sure that my had just gone before the first lick of the guitar, or vice versa. So it was very interesting. It was like, it was quite adventurous.
In those days you had to get like tape machines and juggle with them, that sort of thing. But yeah, it was fun and all part of the thing, the labour of love.
I'd like to give you every inch of my love. I'd like to give everybody my love. I want a whole lot of love. I want a whole lot of love. I want a whole lot of love.
once we'd finished in the studio, and we'd done the best that we could there, and we employed the numbers into the stage act. That wasn't the end of the story, so that was just the beginning. We'd make those numbers work for us. You know, we weren't content to just play them note for note perfect, as many people are these days, for instance, and even were then.
Way down inside, woman, you need love. I'd like to give you every inch of my love. Oh, want a whole lot of love. 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 Want a whole lot of love.
By the time we got to Led Zeppelin 3, there was something obviously very, very crucial about what we were doing, because we'd already developed so many different strands of music within a four-man structure.
I guess that's one of the key factors of why Zeppelin was able to go into all these different, new ground, or touch new ground within music. Because we didn't have to bother about sticking to a format.
Oh, I love you more. Yes, I love you, baby. Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Oh, yeah.
The last thing that we relied on was formula, and knowing that we were doing fine. When Led Zeppelin 3 followed the album with Whole Lot of Love and Heartbreaker and stuff on it, everybody went, well, why kill a perfectly good career? And you make moves, you had musical turns and twists to satisfy yourself. That's what has to come first.
And the record company would have liked us to have done something which sounded exactly the same as Whole Lot of Love with different lyrics, I'm sure. But that's not where we were at. Whenever we got together to record an album, it was always a summing up of where we were at that point in time.
But I tried. Oh, I really tried to do the best I could.
It was real influential. I saw them in 1973. It was before Houses of the Holy, and it was just an amazing show. It really was. I mean, I wish I had a film of it.
This portion of MTV is brought to you by Coca-Cola Classic and the Monsters of the Gridiron. Always a scream, always Coca-Cola. And by Levi's 501 Jeans, the first gene, the last great mystery.
Let's play Coca-Cola Monsters of the Gridiron. The challenger, Chris Weiss. His opponent, Emmett Lone Star Sheriff Smith of the Dallas Cowboys. Chris goes left.
I wouldn't go there.
With you the first time I looked into them there eyes, and you have a certain little cute way of flirting with them there eyes. They make me feel so happy. They make me feel so blue. Oh, baby, them there eyes.
New fresh look color and clear disposable lenses. Color when you want or clear when you don't. Now available at Sears Optical.
1-800-COLLECT presents The Wedding.
Ted, do you promise to hold Susan, to cherish her, to squeeze the toothpaste from the bottom, leave the toilet seat down, and to always dial 1-800-COLLECT when calling Susan Collect?
Ted! I'm a zero dialer, baby! I'm no good for you!
Politeness man!
Champion of courtesy.
His addiction to dialing zero would have put you in the poorhouse, Susan.
Thanks, politeness man.
Remember, ladies, a man who dials 1-800-COLLECT is a man who cares.
Yeah.
Zeppelin's fourth album surprised even the band by spawning one of the biggest radio hits of all time, Stairway to Heaven.
There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying the stairway to heaven. You can't say that Stairway to Heaven was a clear-cut way of getting good radio and success, because it was 9, 10 minutes long. And it didn't have a chorus, it didn't have anything. We used to play it at concerts and people just used to slow hand clap the thing because they didn't know what it was.
I've worked on it for quite a while, on and off. I was putting all these different sections together and putting them in what I considered was the right order before I even presented it to the band.
People used to say about Stairway to Heaven, what was it like when you first wrote it, you know? As if there were sort of three wise men knocking on the door. Excuse me, are you writing Stairway to Heaven here?
The double neck came after the release of the album, actually. So we could do it on stages. I couldn't do it on a 12-string or a 6-string. It's curious because a lot of people think that I actually, we actually recorded it on the double neck. So set that one straight.
And 2 years later with Physical Graffiti, an album that showcased Page's hypnotic riff mastery on the classic track Kashmir.
I think riffs really come from the blues, but I certainly spent a lot of time working on riffs, and it might have created a lot of new insights into riffs that hadn't been employed before.
Led Zeppelin had so much variety that it would be great if some of these, if classic rock is the bane of progressive music or whatever it is, it would be nice if they went to things like Physical Graffiti and played it in The Rover or Custard Pie or something like that. You know, because it's the variety that keeps Zepp alive. Physical Graffiti was probably the greatest moment musically, or greatest set of moments. Because it was done with a mobile 16-track studio in an old house, and we were stuck in there, and we wrote things on the spot. Like Trampled Underfoot, Stairway to Heaven was written at Headley Grange, actually, for the fourth album, so I'm lying. Kashmir, In the Light, stuff like that, which was really very, very good.
Love you ever had? Do you ever remember me, baby? Or did it feel so good? 'Cause it was just the first time, and I knew you were.
Zeppelin's distinctive blend of hard rock power and compositional complexity was memorably demonstrated on the group's 1976 album Presence, with a track called Achilles' Last Stand.
That one was my brainchild, really, as far as all these sort of guitar parts and and all the the ascending guitar figures. And I remember John Paul Jones wasn't really sure whether when I said, no, I've got a scale that goes over these, because but you can't, there isn't a scale. And I said, believe me, I've got one.
1979's In Through the Outdoor was the last album Led Zeppelin would release as a group, and as a thumb of the nose to critics who considered the band an overinflated hype, they put it out in a paper bag.
It still follows on from the early days of getting hammered by the press and saying, all right, we'll put it out in a brown paper bag then.
It sold unfashionably 10 million copies as well. It's really funny how people used to knock it and then go, oh, sorry, you look through their records, oh no, that's not really there. That's just a brown paper bag.
What do Jon Stewart, Ricky Lake, and Cindy Crawford have in common? If you said nothing, you're absolutely wrong. Because they're all on the House of Style, Best of Edition.
Stuffy head, congested chest, sore throat, coughing, fever, so you can face your day medicine. Also try new Dayquil sinus formulas.
A healthy hairspray? I think I'm in love.
When the mood's just right, Six Flags Great America becomes a place of fun.
The jobs of tomorrow are here. Thousands of them, waiting to be filled. But you have to know the fields they're in, and you have to have what it takes to master those fields. Because you can't get the jobs of tomorrow until you get the skills of today. Start by calling ITT Technical Institute. We'll send you an informative brochure on tomorrow's careers and what it takes to get them. Call 1-800-942-0088.
Hi, this is Ed Marquez, and I'm at 96 St. Mark's Place. A very historical place, you might say, because in 1975, Led Zeppelin did an album entitled Physical Graffiti, and this is where they shot the cover right here. We hope you're enjoying the Led Zeppelin Rockumentary. It's all part of MTV's Whole Lotta Lead Weekend. Coming up next, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page's own special on Leaded. But right now, back to the Rockumentary with footage from their last great show, as well as the story of John Bonham's tragic death.
By 1979, punk rock was taking aim at all of rock's reigning superstars. So when Led Zeppelin played its first show in 2 years at the Knebworth Festival, the band had something to prove, and definitely did prove it.
Well, it was fantastic, actually. And they were starting to sing You'll Never Walk Alone and all this sort of, it's fabulous. Really emotional day to remember, days to remember.
We were transcending yet another period. We'd gone from the mid to late 60s of all that kind of pan-psychedelia through into the 70s and that kind of languid period of excess or whatever. And we were clawing our way out. And we were a wild group who needed to get to know each other again. We never got to know each other again.
A decade of rock and roll excess finally did catch up with Led Zeppelin on September 25th, 1980, when John Bonham died at the age of 32.
It's a great loss for music, generally, of course.
I think it's fair to say there hasn't been a drummer anywhere near him since in rock, certainly.
No, absolutely not. No. I think every drummer would be the first to admit that too.
Confident. He wasn't loud. I mean, he got louder as the bigger bass drums that he used to order from Ludwig in Chicago. Once he got free drums from Ludwig, there was no holding him back. He just used to get bigger and bigger bass drums, and sometimes two. But we used to take the one bass drum away if we went out to get a cup of tea. If you got two bass drums set up, we used to steal the one. Because he could do more on one bass drum than anybody can do on two.
Bonzo's favourite music was actually the slower Motown stuff. It was either James Brown or the real sweet soul music, which he loved. This is why all those bands that sort of say, or supposedly sound like us, never get it right, because it's all bash, bash, and there's never all this. If you listen to what Bonzo did, you hear all this little stuff going on.
3 months after Bonham's death, Led Zeppelin, unwilling to continue without him, disbanded. In 1982, a collection of miscellaneous tracks called Coda was released, apparently as the group's swan song. That same year, Page released his Death Wish 2 soundtrack album, and Plant launched a successful solo career of his own. Led Zeppelin appeared to be history. Plant and Page have gone on to do occasional guest spots on each other's albums, but in 1985 there was a full-fledged Zeppelin reunion at Live Aid.
Does anybody remember laughter? And it makes me wonder.
3 years passed before Zeppelin's surviving members were persuaded to reunite once again, this time at the 40th anniversary party for their label, Atlantic Records, with Jason Bonham, son of John, sitting in on drums.
If we all call the truth, then the Bible will lead us to reason.
In the summer of 1990, Jimmy Page returned to Knebworth to join Robert Plant and his new band for a tear through a Zeppelin tune the group had never played on stage, the Coda track, Wearing and Tearing.
We only had a night's rehearsal of that beforehand, and it's a very unusual sort of sequence to it, actually, to try and remember, especially as, of course, Led Zeppelin never actually played this number live on stage. We just recorded it, and that was that. So, yeah, it was pretty dangerous to do that. We've created so much, so many fine compositions. We've done so many fine live performances together. It's natural that, you know, there's a hell of a lot there between us, you know, when we play together. I mean, blood's thicker than water.
Led Zeppelin may never regroup, but it doesn't really have to. The band's memory and its unforgettable music live on vividly to this very day.
For a start, it was 4 outstanding musicians, and yet we had this added dimension that we had the chemistry there.
We worked and we had no idea of what it was. We just did it, and it was spectacular. And spectacularly loud, confident, and wrong a lot of the time, but it was excellent.
When people say Led Zeppelin to you, what does the word mean to you?
One of the greatest rock and roll bands in the world, one of the greatest bands in the world. That's what it means to me. I think a lot of other people too.